my little yarnivores and spiderettes, Fiber Spider, back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I'm going to show you another great piece by Purple Iguana on Ravelry. And today's piece is called Night Moves. It is a scarf pattern. Now, the entirety that I did starts at that point and works our way down over this point. Now, actually, I did some alterations. The original pattern called for an asymmetric piece, so starting at that corner up there and then working your way down towards over here, and then it would be stopping around here. And so the line of this edge of the scarf would continue up to about here or so, and it would stop. But I decided to try to do some alterations so that it would become more of a symmetrical piece. And so I'm going to show you the original pattern, which you can follow along with. I'm going to post a link to the pattern in the description box down below. And so you can follow along with that, or you can continue on. And I tried to make the continual edge as seamless and flowing as I could. And so I'm going to show you how to do decreases so that you can make it more of a symmetric shape. Now, keep in mind, please excuse my handheld camera work. Keep in mind that this really is not so much of a shawl piece because from the top edge down to the bottom, it really does not go down very far. It's much longer than it is wider. And that being said, it really is much more of a really fanciful crescent shape sort of scarf as opposed to a shawl. But this pattern is so easy and there are a lot of variations, but this I fell in love and I really wanted to show you because I love Purple Iguana and all the patterns that she comes out with because they're very easy to follow along with. And so without further ado, I'm going to show you how to do it. By the way, this piece that I did here used almost 2 full skeins of mandala yarn by Lion Brand, just so that you know, and I used a size H crochet hook. All right, so again, without further ado, let's get started. Hello again. So, by the way, before I get started, for those of you that are curious, the colorway of the mandala yarn by Lion Brand that I used for the finished piece was the colorway of Serpent, just in case if you're curious. And no, I'm not sponsored, but I always like to share with you what it is that I use in case if you want to duplicate the results. Also, right now, I am using a size J crochet hook and Red Heart Super Saver in the colorway of Oatmeal, just in case you're curious. All right, so to begin with, for row 1, we're going to start by, of course, doing a slip knot. And the pattern calls for using a magic ring method, which I'm not a huge fan of, so I'm going to do this instead. Going to start by chaining up 3. 1, 2, and 3. The pattern calls for a magic ring and then chaining up 2. So this first chain counts as our ring, alrighty? Now, you could, of course, also do a chaining of 4 and a slip stitch into the first chain to create a ring, and then chaining up 2. Me, I just think this looks a little bit cleaner. Personal preference. So after chaining up 3, we're going to do a shell into that first chain, and a shell, which we're going to be doing lots of these. A shell is a double crochet, and then another double crochet. All right, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets, all into that first chain, or into your slip stitch ring or your magic ring, whatever you like. So we have a chain 2, and then our shell of 2 doubles with a chain 1 in between, and that is the end of row 1. All right, row 2. So for row 2, we're going to start by chaining up 2, turn the work, and we're going to do an increase shell in the shell. And when I say in the shell, it's in the chain 1 space that we created before. So to do an increase shell, that is going to be 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. So basically it's still a shell, but instead of 2 groupings of 2 double crochets, it's 3 groupings. So that is an increase shell, and that is the end of row 2. Alrighty, row 3. So for row 3, we're going to start by chaining up 2 and turning the work. And so within our increase shell, we're going to be doing a shell into here and a shell into here. So into the first chain 1 space, going to do a shell of 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles, okay, so we got 1 shell, then chain 1, and into the next chain 1 space we're going to do, yes, another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, and that is the end of row 3. Row 4. All right, so for row 4, I'm going to start, of course, by chaining 2, turn the work, and so we're going to work in this first shell here, and we're just going to do a shell in the shell, so that is 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles, all right. Then, after we chain 1 to separate our shells, into the next shell, not this chain 1 space in between the shells, but into the shell here, we're going to do another increase shell. So right into here, another increase shell, so that is, I need to pull out some more yarn, sorry. 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, so we have a shell and a shell, and then an increase shell in the second shell. All right, that's the end of row 4. Alrighty, row 5. So for row 5, we're going to start, of course, by chaining up 2, turn the work, and we're going to start, again, we're working in this increase shell, so we're going to do a shell into the first chain 1 space with 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles, after our shell, of course, we chain 1, then into the next chain 1 space of the increase shell, we're going to do another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, now here is where things change a little bit, okay? Because we've done 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right now we're going to leave this last shell unworked. Every 4 rows is when you leave the last one unworked. And that's what creates that really beautiful edge along the bottom. You know, this edge is going to be the neckline edge, and this edge, sort of a sawtooth edge, is going to be the bottom edge. And so every 4 rows, that's when you leave off the last one to create sort of that sawtooth kind of effect. All right? It'll make more sense as we go along, and of course, you know I'm going to do repeats for you, naturally. So that is the end of row 5. Row 6. So for row 6, we're going to start by chaining up 2. It's always starting with a chaining up of 2. And so we chain up 2, turn the work. Now into this first shell, we're going to do, another shell, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles, like so. Then chain 1, and into our next shell, we're going to do another increase shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, and that's the end of row 6. Row 7. So for row 7, chain up 2, turn the work. Now we have, working within our increase shell here, it's going to be a shell into each of these chain 1 spaces of the increase shell from previously. So that is 2 doubles. Oops. 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles, chain 1 after the shell, and then into the second chain 1 space of the increase shell, we're going to do another shell. So of course that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, now chain 1 again. Into this last lonely little shell on the end here, we're going to do another shell into the shell, into that chain 1 space of the shell. So we're going to do another shell here. So 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. And that's the end of row 7. Now, before we go any further, I just wanted to point out that on this edge here, not the sawtooth bottom edge, see how it looks when it's laid out. Like I said, this is the top edge, the neck edge, whereas this is the bottom edge. Now on the bottom edge, okay, like I said, every 4 rows, that's when you leave off the last one to create the sawtooth. Now on the top edge, the neckline edge, every other row is an increase. So that being said, if you look closely, you'll see that on the second row we had an increase shell, and then on the next row it was divvied up into 2 shells. Then in the next row, another increase shell. Then it was divvied up again. And then on the next one, another increase shell. And then it was divided up again. So it makes it really much, much easier to understand the mechanics of the pattern by understanding that every other row on the neckline edge is an increase. It's increase, divvied up, increase, divvied up, and then so when I'm working my way back towards over here, it'll be an increase into this last shell space, because on the previous row, see right down here, we have an increase. Here it's divvied up, so then right in here, it's going to be another increase. It's a really easy way of keeping track of where you need to be, believe you me. Comes in very, very handy. Also, as you can see, we have, we had our shell that we left off here, and so we have 1, 2, and 3. So after going this way and increasing over here, we would then be leaving off this last one here, because it'll make up 4, if I'm not entirely mistaken. We'll get there. I'm just trying to make the whole process easier for you to understand. Actually, no, that'll be row 9 that we leave the last one unworked. We'll get there. Alrighty, so row 8. Alright, so for row 8, we're going to start, of course, by chaining up 2. Turn the work. And we're going to do a shell in the shell, of course. So it's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. And then we chain 1. And then into the next shell, we're going to do another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1. Now, like I said, because down here we had an increase, and this was divvied up right here into this space, we're going to do another increase shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, and that's the end of row 8. Now, as you can see, I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on the next row, like I tried to correct myself, row 9 is where we're going to leave this last one unworked. And we will get there, and it'll create another sawtooth. Okay. Row 9. All right, so for row 9, I'm going to start by chaining up 2, turn the work, and we're going to do a shell into each of the chain 1 spaces of the previous increase shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, next shell into the next chain 1 space. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles, all into that chain 1 space there. All right, then chain 1, and we're going to do another shell into the next shell, right into here. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, and now all you have to do is count. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, because we have 4 on this side, we're going to leave off stitching into that one. So, that's the end of row 9. And we're going to continue up, building up this one up 4 rows, and then that will become another sawtooth. All right, so onwards to row 10. Row 10. All right, so for row 10, we're going to start by chaining up 2, turn the work, and into this first shell, we're going to do another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Okay, chain 1 into the next shell, work another shell, two up, come on, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Okay, chain 1, and now, if you remember, we had an increase shell here, and then it was divvied up, so we need another increase shell right here. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, and that is the end of row 10. See, we've got 1 and 2 on this side, so we need 2 more rows, and then on the following row we'll be able to leave off that 1. And we have an increase here, so the next one it's going to be filling in a shell and a shell. Alrighty, so onwards to row 11. Row 11. So, I'm going to start right in by chaining up 2, turn the work, and going to do a shell into the first chain 1 space of the increased shell from previously. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, and into the next chain 1 space of the increased shell, we're going to do another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, and for this row, we're just going to do a shell into this shell and a shell into this shell and leave off. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles into that same chain 1 space, chain 1, and then do a shell into the last shell here. All right, and that's the end of row 11. So now we've got a total of 3. So we need to do another row, and then the following row we can do our leaving off decrease, so to speak. All right. Row 12. All right, so I'm going to start by chaining up 2, turn the work, and going to do a shell within the shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, shell into the next shell, like so. Chain 1, shell into the next shell here. Two doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles. All right, chain 1, and because we're on the increase side, we did an increase, then we divvied them up, and then we need another increase into this space here. So the last one is going to be an increase shell. So that is, of course, 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles. And that's the end of row 12. So you can see this is the bottom edge. You can see that it's really starting to pop here. Absolutely love how gorgeous this is, and I hope you do too. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that being said, when we're going back along this way, we're going to stop here, and we're going to leave off here because this is our sawtooth edge. All right, so we're going to continue on with row 13. Row 13. All right, so for 13, we're going to start, of course, by chaining up 2, turn the work, and into the first chain 1 space of our increased shell from the previous row, we're going to do a shell. So it's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Then chain 1, and into the next chain 1 space, I'm going to do another shell. 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles. Chain 1, into the next shell, we're going to do another shell. 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, shell into the next shell. Two doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Then, looking at our edge here, like I keep trying to remind you, I'm hopefully not sounding too naggy, but, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So because that's a full sawtooth, so to speak, we're going to leave off and not do this one. And so that would be the end of row 13. And so what you would do is you would just keep on in this fashion, and like I said, it would be presented like this, so that your sawtooth edge is at the bottom, and the increase edge, where we have our increase clusters, our increase shells, would be all along the top. And so you just keep on going in this fashion. And, if you want to follow the pattern specifically, what you would do is you would keep going, in this fashion. And so not ending on row 13, you would add, 3 more rows, so that you would have a grouping of 1, 2, 3, and 4, for a full sawtooth. And, I mean, it creates a absolutely beautiful shape if you're going for an asymmetric shape for your scarf. If you want to do more of a symmetric shape, like I showed you in the beginning of the video, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But for now, I think I would like to do another repeat, continue on, for another full sawtooth for you. Just, I want to make sure that you guys got it. All right, so let's keep going. Alrighty, so we're going to continue right along, going along with creating this sawtooth, as it were. So, I'm going to start by chaining up 2, turn the work, and do another shell within this shell here. And I'm going to go a little bit faster because hopefully by now you get the gist, but I'm still going to finish up this sawtooth so that I can show you how to do the decrease. So continuing right along, after chaining 1, do another shell within the shell. 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, another shell within the shell right here. 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1. Now, again, we had an increase here, and they're split up here, so into here we need to do another increase shell. So that is 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Okie dokie. So that's the end of this row. All right, continuing right along, we start by chaining up 2, turn the work, and into each of these chain 1 spaces we're going to do a shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles into that same chain 1 space. Chain 1 into the next chain 1 space of the previous row increase shell. We're going to do another shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, shell into the next shell. And this is, I really must say, one of those really great patterns for working on, with the TV on in the background or, what have you, listening to an audiobook, because just looking at the piece in progress, you can really figure out where you are, and you don't need to pay too much attention to the pattern itself once you get going, which I absolutely love. All right, so I'm going to keep going because we haven't reached our 4 yet. Still have a bit of a cold, I'm sorry. A code in my node. Alrighty. But I carry on. All right, and that is the end of this row. So we've got 3, so 1 more, and it'll be a complete sawtooth. Okie dokie. Alrighty, so chaining up 2, turn the work. Going to do another shell within the shell. Of 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles. Chain 1, shell into the next shell, chain 1 and 2 more doubles, chain 1, shell into the next shell, chain 1 and 2 more doubles, chain 1, shell into, yes, the next shell. This hopefully should be old hat to you by now, but you know me, I like to be thorough. Even if it borders on being long-winded, I like to be thorough. Chain 1, and into this last shell, we need another increase. Now, I'm going to show you how to do the decreasing, and in spite of the decreasing, the edge that I'm currently working on is not going to change. That way, it continues to have that really nice curvature along the neckline. All right, so we've got 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right, for our increase shell. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have another full sawtooth. Now, with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to start the decreasing. Now, what I did for my actual piece, I used an entire skein for the first half of the mandala yarn. So however much yarn you have, you would want to use about half for the first half. Now, or another way to keep it in mind would be as far as the length goes, because this is about say the halfway mark. Obviously, this doesn't come down very far, and it's not very long. It's just an example, but you get the idea. So, however large you want your piece to be as far as the length is concerned, say this is your halfway mark, then you would start the decreasing. And you would start the decreasing after doing a full 4 of these rows here for a full sawtooth. Then we're going to start with the decreasing, which I'm going to show you right now. All right, so like I said, we have our full sawtooth here. So on the next pass backwards, instead of skipping the last one, we're going to skip 2 of them, and you'll see why in a moment. So chaining up 2, turn the work, and doing a shell in each of these 2 chain 1 spaces. So 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, if I can get there. Alrighty, chain 1, shell into the next chain 1 space, right here. Alrighty, chain 1, shell into the next shell right here. So, of course, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles, chain 1, and going into this one here, but we're going to leave these last 2 unworked, and it'll become more apparent as we go on. So doing a shell into this shell here, chain 1 and 2 more doubles, all right. And so because we want that prominent point at the base. So going to leave off these two, okay, and we're going to continue on with our next row by chaining up 2, turn the work, shell in a shell. Now the difference is that on the decreasing, instead of 4 rows per saw blade, it's only 2. And believe you me, I did a lot of experimenting. So I got a shell and a shell here, shell and a shell right here. Yes, I did a lot of experimenting, a ton of frogging, because I wanted it to look just so. And I think it was well worth the effort. But as I always try to encourage all of you to experiment, to think outside of the box, it does require a lot of manipulation and frogging and tearing out of stitches and so forth, you know, and that can get very frustrating, but this is how we grow. So into this last stitch here, this last shell, we're going to do another increase shell. This edge, like I said, does not change. So since we had an increase here, we need another increase up here. So that is, of course, 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 more doubles. All right, so now, I know this looks kind of odd at the moment, but it'll make more sense as we go on. So we have this one and this one skipped, and we went up a total of 2 rows here. Now on the next one, we're going to skip this one and this one, because it's only every 2 rows, right? And we will continue, and I'll show you what I mean. Alrighty, so we're going to chain 2, turn the work, and into the first chain 1 space of the increase shell, we're going to do another shell. Also, what I've noticed is that when you are doing the decreasing, as I'm doing it right now, it is a very slow, gradual taper because we're still doing the increases every other row on the neckline edge. So it's not abrupt. So I did my shell here. Now I'm doing another shell in the other chain 1 space of the previous increase shell. All right, so we've got our 2 shells here. Then chain 1. And so we have a total of 3. So we're just going to work into this one here, doing a shell within a shell. Now, of course, this is a sample, so you would have to do this quite a few more times than I am now, but this will give you a really good, solid foundation idea as to what you need to do. All right, so now we've skipped those 2 shells over here, so going to work our way back this way. So chaining up 2, turn the work, and work a shell within the shell. 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1, into the next shell, work another shell. Alrighty. And then into this last shell, another increase shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 more doubles. All right, so as you can see, it has a sawtooth variation in its own way going up this way. Let me lay it out for you so you can get a better idea. All right, so this is, of course, where we started, and then working our way down, this is the exact center, and then it continues to go up, and it's going to continue to increase on this edge and decrease this way, but in a slow tapering manner. And I personally think that this is about as seamless of a transition that I could possibly make it. That's me personally. Now, of course, if you can find one that works better, by all means, go ahead and do it. And I really hope that Purple Iguana doesn't mind me making such extreme variations on her original pattern, but I just thought that this was a really fun way of going about it. So we're going to continue. We don't have much more to go, so we're going to continue until we have an actual point on this edge. Alrighty. All right, so continuing right along, we're going to chain up 2 and turn the work. And we're going to work a shell within the first chain 1 space. 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. Chain 1. Now we have a total of 3 here, so we're going to work a shell into this one. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. So we're going to leave off these 2 here, and we're going to work our way upward again. So chaining up 2, and into here we're going to do another shell. Chain 1, and into this space here we're going to work another increase shell. So that's 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles. All right. And we could quite conceivably leave off here, and I'll show you what I mean, because ultimately you would want this tip here to closely resemble this tip on this side, sort of trying to go for as much of symmetry as we can here, as you can see. Now, you could, of course, continue on by chaining up 2, doing a shell within this shell, and a shell within this shell, but there's only one here, right? So I would leave off here, okay? If you had more, you would keep going, but I think that here is actually a good place to leave off at. So there we are. This is my variation on how to finish the edge for the Night Move scarf. And I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial because it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun as far as trying to figure out how to tweak it. And the original pattern is really awesome too. And it's well worth trying, I think. And so I hope you really enjoyed this as much as I did. And if you did, please hit the little thumbs up button down below because I really appreciate your support. All of you, you guys are great. If you have any questions, comments, what have you, please leave them in the comments section down below. I love hearing from you. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, please do so as well, because I try to post videos as often as I can, and this is my passion, and I love sharing it with you, because as I always say, knowledge is power, and sharing is caring, and I care. So, without further ado, I want you all to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.